Welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 05. Today we will look at 5 of the best Hearthstone decks for July, or for the end of this season. I will go into detail for 5 of the best performers right now, and I will give you a mulligan guide and win rates for each of those. But I will also tell you what other decks are performing well right now at the end of this video, so stick around. You can only fit 5 decks in a top 5, so don't worry if your favorite deck is not amongst these top 5. Drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're new. Now, let's get into it. The first deck I'm gonna talk about is the one I used to climb to top 300 Legend with, Stealth Galakrond Rogue. Overall, this deck is not doing too great in most people's hands, but if you really master it, the wins keep on coming. This list seems to be the best performing ones out of the bunch, and we have a swapped out cat for an extra stealth Worgen, 2 questing adventurers for some extra layer of big threats, and prep for some early eddies and big questing adventurers, and 1 shenanigans. We're down to only 6 invoke cards, but usually those are enough to do the job. If you don't have prep right now, feel free to swap it out for whatever you feel you're missing the most. A sap is a good substitute, and so is a maniac for an extra invoke. The deck is still very tempo oriented, and you need to keep pushing that tempo so you can transition to your great mid game with Dogwaggle, Galakrond, and Krunks. Knowing how you can close out the game and following your game plan is key for you to win with this deck. A lot of people play this deck for too much value, shadow stepping their Dogwaggle or Krunks the same turn they play it. But a lot of times it would be better for you to leave those on the board for the extra tempo and pressure on your opponent. Against the faster matchups, you need to do anything you can to get ahead on the board. But when you're against slower value matchups, you will probably need to hoard your reach cards like Avis, Krunks, and Cobalt Lackeys, so you can do lethal. Let me know in the comments below if you would like me to do a detailed guide about this deck with gameplay included, and I just might do it. Now, let's see what the matchups look like. After the last change, Demon Hunter got a little bit harder, but you will still be favored if you're going first especially. Most warriors are usually fine for you, but for Bomb Warrior, you need to get pretty lucky to pull it off. Priests nowadays are especially annoying and you will not enjoy it at all. With Druids, your best bet would be to take the game early with a huge eddy, but you still have decent odds as long as they don't high roll on you too hard. Hunters and mages are not as hard nowadays and you are actually favored. For the mulligan, you always want to have 1 or 2 good 1-drops and a Skyvateer. Depending on the matchup, you might also want to have some removal like Backstab or Seal of Fate. But if you're facing druids or priests, you wouldn't be happy keeping too much of those. If you already have a stealth dude, keeping a sage wouldn't be a bad idea. And sometimes you can even risk keeping it if you're going to mulligan the 3 other cards away, since the chances of you to draw one of your 5 low drops is pretty high in that case. Keeping cards like Miscreant and Eddy usually is only good when you're going second, but if you have a way to utilize them in your current hand, you might want to keep them too. If you already have a good 1 and a 2 drop, you can even consider keeping Dogwaggle, especially if you're going second. And in some cases, keeping Galakrond can be pretty good too, but not as much as in the past, since we're only down to 6 invoke cards in this deck. All in all, I still think this deck is pretty worth the craft, and if you're up for a challenge, you can have a lot of fun with it. There are tons of decisions to be made, especially after turn 6, so knowing your opponent and your game plan against each of them is pretty important here. Secret Rogue is also doing pretty good, but if you want to achieve high ranks, Stealth is the way to go. Next up, let's talk about Spell Druid again. The deck rose in power again after the Demon Hunter nerf, and it's still pretty cheap and effective. You're only running 3 minions here for better odds on your Fungal Fortunes, and you have a lot of buff spells for token aggression. You don't do too much in your early turns, but if you manage to ramp early, then it's bad news for your opponent. Glowfly Swarm as soon as turn 4 is pretty annoying to deal with, and most of the popular decks right now can't really do much about it. And if you have the second Glowfly Swarm to follow up with it, then it's probably GG already. The mount sellers soon after are also a pretty big problem, and you also have a Sarah for those huge dragons in the mid game. Managing your hand and taking risks in the early game so you can have a better mid game is pretty tricky, but if you get it right, you will climb a lot. You don't really have any hard removals, but you have plenty of small ones, which should hold you in the game long enough so you can become the aggressor. The matchups are basically all green for you. Demon Hunter is the only one coming close to being a problem for you, but overall, anything is more or less in your favor. For the mulligan, Fungal Fortunes and Ramp are your best cards. Keeping the Glowfly Swarm, especially if you're going second, is also a pretty good idea. Rising Winds is also a good versatile spell you can keep, and you won't feel bad about playing it since it's a twin spell, and it won't hurt your Glowfly Swarm. If you already have a Fungal Fortunes, you might even consider keeping a Mount Seller, so you make sure you don't burn it. All in all, the deck is very high rolly and not expensive at all. It takes some time getting used to it, but if you learn it, you will be climbing in no time. The dragon version is also pretty good, but it seems like this version is better for now. Now, let's check out Enrage Warrior again. The deck is still pretty much at the top of its game, and it's probably the best performing warrior archetype right now. It's not too different from the one we featured a few top 5s ago, but this one opts for 2 executes, so it can handle bigger dudes. It definitely helps them against those huge eddies and questing adventurers, I can tell you that much. Other than that, the list is pretty standard. Having both elites and Grow Mash is your charger finishers or stabilizers. If you don't like the 2 executes, there are plenty of cards to choose from. Injured Tovir, Greenskin, and Deathwing are the first 3 to come to mind. Or you can even switch them with the eggs, so you become an egg warrior instead. For the matchups, your only weakness would be priests and dragon spell druids. You will be destroying demon hunters with these, but that's no secret. The rest are pretty decent or great for you as well. On the mulligan, your best keeps would be Ankar and Cash. Sky Raider is a fine keep for you since you won't be doing much till turn 3 anyway, and Wormhole Challenger is a great free drop for you to have in your hand as well. Don't get baited into keeping Skipper and Armor Smith as a 1 and a 2 drop, since they are much more than that. You need to be saving those for combos and not just throw them as simple bodies on the board. Also, don't get baited into keeping Mercenary too much either, since you will probably end up with nothing to dupe by the time you get to play her. This is another powerful and cheaper deck that you can go for, and it's not showing signs of ever slowing down, unless they nerf it. Corsair Cash is definitely showing signs of a card that needs to be nerfed, since it's included in every warrior archetype, and that's a sure sign of a nerf incoming. I'm not sure if and when Blizzard will pull the trigger on it, but I wouldn't disenchant any extra copies of that card if I were you. Other than that, Egg and Bomb Warrior are doing great, and Pirate and Control Warrior are having decent results as well. So there are plenty of warrior archetypes to choose from if you're enjoying this class. This time I will include Highlander Hunter in this list, because last time you guys almost ate me alive for not including it, even though I did tell you it's one of the best performers at the end of that video. It's still a great deck, and it pretty much always has been, with tons of tempo and a lot of value too. This version is opting for no secrets, since those are not doing too much in high level of play anyway, and if you top deck them, it's even worse. You have your Ooze here for better chances against warriors and demon hunters, but you can also swap it out for a Bone Chewer instead. Another card you can change here is the Guardian Og Merchant, even though you can do a lot of value trades with it or even use it as a 1 damage ping. Other than that, the list is pretty standard. For the matchups, Tempo Demon Hunters and Pirate Warriors would be your worst ones, but Face Hunter and Spell Druid aren't gonna be easy either. If you manage to find a Paladin on ladder, you wouldn't enjoy it too much, but you will have to look really hard for him, since I haven't seen one in a long while. Bomb Warrior shouldn't be too easy for you either. For the mulligan, you would like to have a good 1-drop, Zephyrus and Felmaw would be great for you too. If you already have 1 or 2 of those, you can even keep Bran, for a forceful argument to the face as soon as turn 6. Scavenger's Ingenuity is also pretty good, Fairy Dragon is solid, and so are the 2 weapons. You have a lot of micro synergies here, so depending on your hand, you might keep a lot of other cards here as well. Again, Highlander Hunter is a very expensive deck, but it's not going anywhere till the Highlander cards go, so you will be safe crafting it. Games are not too fast, but they're very consistent, so you should have a good time with it. Dragon Hunter and Face Hunter are also doing pretty good on lower ranks, but I haven't seen either of those in High Legend in months. So if it's high ranks you're looking for, you will have to fork up the dust and go the Highlander way. Speaking of hunters, we can't have a top 5 without a Demon Hunter, since apparently 4 nerfs are not enough. Good job, Blizzard. Seriously though, the last nerf wasn't even a nerf, but more like a modification. It basically became a +4 damage reach for Demon Hunters, and so far it seems like it's working out fine for them. Sure, now it costs them 4 mana to deal 8 damage instead of 0 mana for 4 damage, but in some cases it's well worth it. They did lose the versatility of being able to combo attack synergy cards on the same turn they play them, but in return they did receive a lot of extra damage to go through taunts and face. Anyway, Tempo Demon Hunter is still king, even though it fell off tier 1 for High Legend. A Controllish Demon Hunter also rose in popularity in the last few days, but it's not as dominant as its Tempo brother. This particular version is opting for 2 Bone Chewers and 1 Vulpera for some extra versatility, but anything else is pretty standard. For the matchups, only Warrior can be a real problem, but Stealth Rogue also makes it sweat. If you somehow find a pure Paladin, you will also have a harder time. Anything else is pretty good for you, so climbing shouldn't be a problem. For the mulligan, you just want to curve out. A couple of good 1-drops, your Umberwing and a Bone Chewer would be your best bets. but you can also keep a twin slice so you can better protect your board. Satire also might be worth keeping, especially if you have the weapon for 2. Keep your sidekick only if you have something to play it on. It's pretty safe to say that Tempo Demon Hunter is pretty safe to craft. It doesn't cost much, it wins games fast, and it's not going anywhere in a long time, so it's a no-brainer if you enjoy the class. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a 5th nerf before the new expansion comes, but time will tell. Other than that, from the classes I didn't feature here, Highlander Mage is doing pretty good, and so are Highlander and just Galakron Priest too. West Warlock did fall a lot in power, but I think it's still doing wonders in skilled hands. Anyway, that's gonna be it for this video, guys. Let me know in the comments what are your favorite decks so far. Hope you found the video helpful, and if you did, a like and a subscribe would mean a lot. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris05, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.